Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to episode 96 of the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth,
Brian,
and Kirsten.
So this week it's D23. We've got a lot of parks news to cover. I know we kind of briefly talked about this because we couldn't contain it, but how's everyone feeling after this parks panel?
Underwhelmed.
Yeah,
That's the word.
That's definitely the word.
I kind of have to agree with that. I'm very underwhelmed. We should probably let our listeners know it's about 7:30 Eastern time, so the parks panel has been over for a couple hours now. D23 is still going on, to my understanding. If there's anything we miss out on, it's because we're sitting here talking about it right now. So let's just jump into it, I guess. So today was the parks panel. Like I said, we're going to go piece by piece and talk about, I guess, mostly the stuff that's going to come to Walt Disney World, because there were a couple things for the other parks, but that's not too important, right?
Not to a Walt Disney World podcast.
No.
I feel bad, but I was kind of like zoning out when they were talking about Disneyland or Disneyland Paris. So
Mostly because I'm not going to get to go there anytime soon, so I think it's less exciting.
There were some interesting things that they talked about for the other parks, which maybe I put some of that stuff in the show notes, so maybe we'll hit some of that along the way. But first things first, let's talk about how they opened this up with probably the best piece of information from this panel, a commercial for Galaxy's Edge, which featured more footage for Rise of the Resistance.
yeah,
It looks cool.
I'm pretty hyped on this.
I'd like to see more. Yeah.
So, Brian and Beth, I got to ask you guys, because Kirsten, you didn't watch any of the footage, right?
No. Don't have kids, y'all.
So, did the Kylo Ren lightsaber through the ceiling effect, was that what sealed it for you guys? Because that was the first thing that I was like, yeah, no, if that actually makes it into the attraction, I'm all here for that.
I know that's the first thing when I saw it. I was like, okay, now did they just like digitally edit that in, or is it actually on there? If that's really in there, that is going to be incredible.
Yeah,
for sure.
That was the first thing I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. If they can manage to do that and make it like so it's not just a lightsaber that turns on and moves through the ceiling, like I'm all here for that.
Wait, can you explain it for us losers who...
So the footage that they showed was very brief, very like nondescript. For the most part, it was like a commercial for Galaxy's Edge, but the few effects that they showed was that it's gonna be a combination of an actual like attraction, and it's also going to be like a walkthrough thing too. So it's going to be part of each. And the part where you're in the car, there's one scene that you go through, and as your car's going under one section of like, it looks kind of like a tunnel type thing, like a really close quarters tunnel. Kylo Ren's lightsaber came through the ceiling, turned on, and started to like cut through the actual like the ceiling tile. And then the car went through like a big door, and there was like this wide open stage room where there was all these stormtroopers that started like firing at the car. It looks really cool. Nice. And if this actually lives up to the hype, like everything that they keep throwing out there, I think this could be one of the better attractions that they're coming up with. I just really hope that it doesn't start to like chip away and we get like a tiny shell of everything they keep teasing us with.
I especially gotta say they made the Millennium Falcon ride look a lot cooler than it actually is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Oh man, I know I was very hyped for Smuggler's Run and very let down by what it came out to be.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was the weird thing too. This commercial went right from the clip of Rise of the Resistance right into Smuggler's Run after they were like, oh yeah, we're going to show you some footage of Rise of the Resistance. I was like, does this ride just kind of like transition right into that? Or are you supposed to go right from here to there?
Yeah, they made it seem like it's all one big ride, which was kind of misleading.
Yeah, that's not very good for the like uninformed Disney person.
AKA 85% of people who go to Disney.
Exactly. So I guess kind of moving right along with that and jumping a little bit ahead, we've had a lot of talk about the Star Wars Hotel this weekend too. I haven't had a chance to really look into this, so I don't know who put this in here, but if you guys want to take over on that for me, that would be
it
great.
really doesn't matter because none of us are going to be able to afford to stay there. So...
I keep seeing people on Twitter that are like, serious question, will anybody split the room cost with me?
Splitting the cost is ridiculous.
Right. I read that if you do completely pack the cabin with like, I don't know, the 5 people maximum, that it makes it less expensive, but it's still like ridiculously expensive. Like it's, it's still out of my price range, even having to split the cost with 4 other people. But it does look really cool. I wish that they would kind of incorporate this in like with more IPs and like make it more affordable. I guess I understand why they're not making it super affordable because aren't there only like 60 rooms or something? Like it's a really
like
small amount of rooms. But yeah, this was I feel like this was towards the end of the announcement or the panel today. And it does look like it's really cool. They said that the process is going to be that you like go to check in at a terminal and then you enter a launch pod and you travel in the launch pod through the space and then when you arrive, you're at the atrium of the hotel. So I'm not really sure how they're going to make that happen. Are you going to be like getting onto a bus like disguised as something? Like, is it gonna just like turn you around? I have no idea. That part sounds cool to me.
The whole concept of it sounds super interesting, but I have to wonder like what the actual percentage of people that are going to A, get involved in this are going to be, and B, like if it's going to actually be a success, even at the smaller room rate number. Like, is that only going to be able to be a thing that we can keep doing if they keep selling the rooms out? Like, what's the...
I mean, I honestly, like, sad to say, I think it is going to be a huge success because just even working in the job that I do, there's like a lot of rich people. And if we're going to generalize here, which this is probably inappropriate, but I don't care. A lot of people who love Star Wars are kind of nerdy and they have like tech jobs. So they probably make enough. Like the Venn diagram probably has a decent amount of crossover. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Like I added it up for us. I don't even remember how much it was, but I mean, we have Eli and he sadly is not old enough to pay his own way. If anybody needs a toddler to work for you part-time, let me know. And it would be, and like, cause it includes your food or whatever, but it doesn't include your tickets as far as I've read. And then, people who live out of town, like getting there and that sort of stuff. And, let's see, do you have to pay to park your car at this resort? Probably. Like just, it just adds up. It's easily over $10,000. I mean, like,
honestly, I feel like if I was going to dish out as much money as this is going to cost, and it's going to be as immersive and interactive as they're touting it to be, I wouldn't be spending a ton of time in the parks, except for maybe going to Galaxy's Edge, to kind of make the connection. But
I thought
feel like
you had to go to the parks. Like I thought that was the whole point. Was like you got missions, whatever, etc., that took place in the park. Like maybe
at Galaxy's Edge, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, other than that, I feel like this isn't like probably going to be geared towards someone who's actually making this a Disney trip, like this is going to be like going exclusively experience. Right.
Yeah, I can see it being like that. Like Brian said, its own separate thing. Like you purposely go for that.
Yeah, but I mean, also like you could go to Tokyo Disneyland and spend a week there and then spend a week just in Japan, for like less than that easily.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
It's kind of like exactly how much do you love Disney? and Star
A
Wars.
whole lot. We do a podcast about it every week.
I know. It's like, it makes me feel bad because I'm like, I feel like I should be seeing other places in the world and like experiencing other things, you know, like how
Yeah.
many times can I justify only going to Disney World?
I
Like
completely
as a
agree.
Disney fan, I look at this and I'm like, would I rather do the Star Wars thing or would I rather spend twice as long staying at like the Poly for that cost, you know? And like that's a no-brainer
Right.
for me. I'm gonna do the Poly. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Even if you just look at it in terms of Disney spending.
that's the weird thing. Like it stacks up against other experiences, but like I guess we won't really know till it opens how it actually stacks up against other experiences, like in terms of cost and value.
yeah, if they do keep this as like the super expensive, super inclusive, like own experience thing, then I see it working like that. But if they really try to make this as like another Disney resort that fills up with the same amount of people that the other resorts do, I don't think that's ever going to happen. At least not at these
Yeah.
prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. Think about Golden Oak. Like there are, you know, enough people that have like these ridiculous amounts of money. You know, I don't know.
I don't know. That's really true. Like, I wonder if that's going to end up being their target demographic is the rich
I'm
Disney
sure.
fan.
Yeah, they don't care
Yeah,
about
definitely.
food
They don't care about the common folk.
or
Yeah. I am interested to see the different types of, I don't know, activities that they'll have within the hotel. Because I know that they mentioned that there's going to be lightsaber training for both kids and adults, which I appreciated. Actually,
I did
including
like
adults
that.
for a change. Like they were kind of talking about the choices that you make and the allegiances that you make are going to affect how your Star Wars story unfolds. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what choices would I have the option to make? You know?
it kind of reminds me of I've actually never played it. I keep meaning to, but I just haven't yet. KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh,
Have y'all played that?
I have. That's actually one of my favorite video games.
That Will
never heard of
that's why he keeps telling me to play it. I think you can get it on an iPad or something, but it's Star Wars and it's like I don't know, Mario, you can probably explain it better, but it's very big on like the choices you make impact like
So it's an older game, probably. I want to say I played it on like the original Xbox, but it's like an RPG game that's all basically story driven. Like you have the option to like there are battles and stuff, but it's more like instead of I'm trying to figure out how to explain this in the least gamey way as possible. But
Is it like one of those choose your own adventure books, kind of?
Kind of, but with the action, it's not like real time action. Like you could stop and start the battle to choose different actions to do. So it's more of a strategy game than it is like an actual like RPG type thing. The cool thing about it though is that it's got so many different endings, and for it being an older game, you can actually like totally change the entire path of the story and play it like multiple times over just through like making different choices as the game goes on.
you can end up being like a villain, you know.
Yeah, so
or a
it's
hero.
the cool thing about it is like it's got when you start the game you have like a meter on the side and you get points for like if you make a bad decision, like if someone needs your help and you end up killing them, you'll actually gain like Sith points and your meter will go down, so you can see how far you've actually gone into like the bad endings of the game.
It's really cool. That's kind
It
of like
is.
I don't know if you guys have played any of the like Telltale games series. I don't know
Think
if
of
you
a
guys.
Telltale game but with some like action to it.
Okay, that's cool. I haven't played. I've played a little bit of the Telltale games. Like I've mostly just watched my boyfriend play them. But I always thought that was interesting because it'll like depending on what you say, it's like, oh, Mary will remember that you said that, and I'm like, oh gosh, she's gonna remember.
The neat thing is, like Kirsten said, you can get it on iOS too. So if you did want to give it a try, I think it's like at most maybe like $14. It's fairly inexpensive. I mean, expensive for an iOS game, but for a video game overall. It's probably like $10 at 10 to 14-ish. And there's 2 of them, but definitely play the first one. The first one was better, I think. But I guess we should move on to some of the other stuff here. Disneyland is getting a new show called Magic Happens, but we are not. So magic does not happen at Walt Disney World.
On me.
You know what? I know not everybody in this group is going to be excited about this, but the fact that they announced this at Disneyland made a note to say that they had Main Street Electrical Parade right now and then didn't announce anything for Disney World. I'm wondering if we're going to get Main Street Electric Parade back.
They can't keep torturing us.
I would be happy.
Or they can just like roll out a new nighttime parade. I don't know.
I can't make it freaking paint the night.
That's what I was kind of hoping, but I doubt that.
So annoying.
Do you think that the float that they showed looks really cool?
Oh yeah, all of them look sweet. The Moana one I think was the coolest.
Yeah. Also, I think it's interesting that the music was created with Todrick Hall.
Yeah.
Like, good for him, I guess.
I seriously, sometimes I just get in a mood and I have to watch his like Disney mashup, whatever. Like, it is so catchy.
He's like, made it, man. He did it.
I'm not going to lie. Pretty much all of the music in this panel was also super underwhelming.
Oh, really? See, that's why I love Wishes so much. The music is just so good.
Is it, Kirsten? I feel like you've never mentioned that before.
I know. Little known fact. I love Wishes.
I thought that the song for... I know we're skipping ahead a little with that, but I thought the song for the... What was it? Harmonious? The nighttime
It was okay.
show at Epcot. I thought it was pretty good.
Harmonious. Like, I don't know.
Harmonious.
I don't... whatever. Comment.
Honestly didn't realize that the US was capitalized until I was like searching for it later. Because the way that I guess I wasn't paying attention to the like actual on stage. Because when they said it, they just said it like harmonious, like the regular word. But
these people that are coming up with these names at Disney need to be fired.
Bouncing off of that, they had to remind us that they did not forget about Runaway Railway because that was supposed to open this year, and it definitely did not. Bob Chapek also said that there is a surprise twist at the end of the attraction that he wasn't going to spoil, and then just showed us pictures of the exterior of both the Disney World and Disneyland version. Walt Disney World is going to open 2020. Disneyland's is going to open 2022. I'm still really excited about this attraction.
Yeah, it looks really cool, for sure.
I am excited. But I also think, like, what does it say about you whenever you have to remind your huge audience that you didn't forget about a ride? Like, what does that say about what they expect from you and your follow through?
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited about the attraction. I thought it was very funny when he got everyone hyped up to show the new, picture of the exterior of the attraction, and nothing had changed.
Yeah, it was a neon sign on the outside of the attraction that was like Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway, and I looked at that as like, this is literally the same exterior that it had before.
It's so fun, like the live stream that I was watching, everyone's like, oh my goodness, and like started like cheering and everything, and I'm like, are y'all seeing something that I'm not seeing? Because this is literally the Chinese theater with a sign on it.
That's exactly
Maybe they just
how
didn't know the
was.
attraction was coming. Like, they don't follow up as much as we do. I don't know. It does look almost identical.
There was like 2 or 3 times during this panel where something would happen and they would like really try to hype it on stage, and everybody would be like, ooh, and then it would come up and nobody would cheer or say anything. It was like the most awkward part of this entire thing was just how often people were just like not really into it.
I mean, I feel like everybody was just expecting so much.
Well, so here's my thing. Like, I have this theory, and I guess this is kind of jumping ahead, but we've already said we were super underwhelmed by how this whole panel went, but like I think that they know that Disney fans watch them so heavily that now they can't announce anything too far out. So everything that they had to announce this D23 has to be like immediate plans or stuff they've already announced. Because like if you look at everything that they put here, it's all 2020 stuff. We don't see anything even remotely close to the 50th.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like I was talking to someone earlier and I was like, the funny thing is last year they announced that theater on Main Street and then almost immediately scrapped it. And I remember that, like, not that people were hyped about the theater, but people were like, oh, I guess we're not doing that anymore, and really criticized Disney for announcing it and then, like, just getting rid of it. So I think that mixed with the fact that, like, Universal just put out this big announcement that they're opening a new park, like, there's a lot of eyes on Disney and they have to play it very safe.
I guess. I mean, I understand that from their side, but as like a big fan, I would almost rather them be like, hey, this is stuff that we've got in development, and then have to come back and say we're not doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Even if it's vague, I think that I would still rather hear like something. I don't know. But, you know, the grass is always greener, I suppose.
Maybe they're keeping like some big stuff under wraps so that if Universal tries to announce anything exciting, they're going to be like, okay, here's the thing that we didn't announce yet.
But it's like they did. Like this was the chance to do that because Universal did announce big stuff and they didn't really come back with anything.
And it kind of weirds me out. I feel like with the 20th being, or the 50th, sorry, being in 2 years, and then the schedule being for there to be a D23, you know, like a couple months before the actual 50th, to me, I really feel like next year they should just make an exception and, you know, do a D23 on an off year or something, just because I feel like it doesn't make sense to have this massive push for the 50th and not be able to use your main announcement vehicle that hypes people up to announce anything for it.
Oh, for sure. Because then, I mean, D23 in, 2021, what all the stuff for the 50th is going to have to be out by then. People are going to know about that by then. So what is going to be announced at D23 2021?
We just found out about the snacks already. I mean, hello. Low-hanging fruit.
I'm going to be so disappointed if there's very minimal stuff that they roll out for the 50th. And the other thing...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because like the 60th at Disneyland, I mean, I feel like I already said this, was such a huge deal. And like, it's a smaller park. It's less well known, you know, and it's not like 50th, I feel like is just a more banner year than 60th. So, yeah.
Well, and the other thing that I was kind of thinking about too, I know that I could say this and it's not going to mean anything because we've said it about 5 times now, but this is also the year that, well, this is the period of which Bob Iger has said he's going to retire again for the 5th time. So if he is actually retiring, I wonder how much stuff he's willing to actually greenlight.
Yeah,
which I feel like he probably has. If he was going to greenlight anything for the 50th, like he would have had to have already done that, and they probably should have been able to announce that. But he's supposed to retire like relatively soon after that.
Really would have been the best D23 announcement to announce that he was retiring effective immediately.
I kind of thought that was going to be the secret announcement.
Bob Chapek, what did he say?
The next thing that was on here?
I heard you, and we're bringing more animation to the parks. Like, really, did you hear Bob Iger tell you that he wants more of that in the parks? Because I don't think that real Disney fans have been saying that.
There were so many times during this presentation where he would say something, and it was like almost in a "we heard you say this" tone of voice, but like nobody was saying that thing that he heard us say. Did you get that too, Brian? Because I felt that a lot.
Definitely. It was like we listened to the people who were telling us to do the things that we've already been doing.
Or like we listen to those loaded surveys that we send out and basically force you to answer the way that we want you to.
Yeah, would you rather see more animation in the parks or nothing at all? Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I I mean, it really is. It's like, would you like us to update the park with, your favorite storylines, or just like not change anything? People are going to always want new things, but we want new original things.
Yeah. I don't know. That was the part that, like, I guess made me angry the most. Everything after this kind of seemed like at least it was good enough to make me feel all right about everything else they were including. But when he said that, I was like, all right, Bob, just walk off stage now. It's time.
I know the fact that they kind of like started with that, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be rough.
And to be fair, the next couple of things that they did talk about did kind of include animation and like Disney IPs, and they all do kind of seem exciting. So I guess we can take the time to transition into those and talk about some of that stuff.
Let's go for it.
So, not that this is relevant to us at all, but Hong Kong Disneyland is getting Zootopia, like we've all kind of known for the longest time now. Their castle is also changing, and my favorite quote of the expo was, "This castle will be unlike anything else. It will not feature a Disney princess," to which I responded, "Did you forget that Shanghai is a thing?" Instead, it'll feature 13 princesses. And it's going to have all of them.
13.
Pretty much. Hong Kong Disneyland is also getting a Frozen Land 2 with Wandering Oaken's sleigh ride, which looks almost identical to Seven Dwarfs, and then a clone of Frozen Ever After.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said to my wife. Like, as we were watching it, I was like, I mean, you can just tell by the concept art, like that is a rebadged Seven Dwarfs. Like they showed the train like coming out of the mountain and everything. It was like, this looks exactly like it.
I have to go find the concept art of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and put both of them side to side, because I swear they'll probably be the same thing.
Yeah, you should. And like whenever they were coming out with the movies and using the same background for everything, like the Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz when they did, like how those movie posters were identical. Exactly. Like almost exactly. Yeah.
It was, I don't know, it was something. So I think after that we moved into Epcot news. At least that's where we're at on our show notes. Then they started talking about all that stuff, and that was interesting. I don't know how I feel about this still. But apparently Epcot is going to be divided into 4 neighborhoods, which it kind of already was. Like, this really shouldn't be anything new, but they're acknowledging it now. It's going to be World Celebration, World Discovery, World Showcase, and World Nature. I think these names are a little
stupid,
bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, I get. I guess what they were trying to make it all like world. We already have World Showcase, so let's make it other world things. But I don't know. I feel like with World Showcase and Future World sound good together because it's not like repetitive. Yeah. They could have done something like that.
The thing that's so weird about this, and I kind of already said this, is like the park was already split this way. It makes sense that they were going to finally draw the line and it not just be like Future World East and Future World West, because that was always just bizarre to me. But the fact that they were like, okay, this is how it's going to go, this is what they're going to all be themed to, and they're all supposed to have a cohesive theme is cool. But they could have came up with better names. And I kind of get it, because like everything's a land in Magic Kingdom. I guess World makes sense because World Showcase is what everyone already associates Epcot with. But I don't know. They could have named this better, I think.
It doesn't roll off the top.
Yeah, I as far as the content of what's going to be in them, though, I was pretty excited about almost everything that they announced.
Oh yeah. So let's take a dive into that, since we've already complained about the name enough. So it looks like the first one that they started to talk about was World Celebration, which is going to be the central point of Epcot, basically where Spaceship Earth is. They're going to be updating the fountain in the front of Spaceship Earth to have the little pillars, the glass pillars that it used to have, kind of a throwback for old Epcot fans, which seemingly are all pretty peeved about this. Spaceship Earth is going to get an overhaul, and it's going to be more focused on storytelling and less about communication. There does seem to be some IP tied into this from the concept art. That's a lot of speculation. They didn't outright say that, so don't come with the pitchforks yet. But definitely needs it. Do we want to keep just going through this one and then we can talk about it all in one shot, or do we want to break it down piece by piece?
I don't know. I'm just sad that Judi Dench won't be narrating this anymore.
Same.
Did they say that officially?
They actually specifically said that there will be a new narrator on your journey or whatever, and that made me sad.
Yeah, new narration and new musical score.
I want to give a quick shout out, and you guys are going to very much enjoy this, to a tweet that I scrolled across right before we started recording from at Figment Jedi on Twitter that said, "So is Peter Dinklage going to narrate the new Spaceship Earth and awkwardly tell us about the power of storytelling?" And then the next tweet was, and quote, it was, "And who has a better story than Dr. Nigel Channing?"
Oh my god.
Well, I don't know. I'm excited about Spaceship Earth getting an update. I think it's needed it for a little bit. But yeah, I am kind of on the fence about them saying that this is storytelling now, because yeah, it does open the door for them to tell their own stories that are connected to their IPs.
There was totally a Moana tie-in in the concept art. I don't know.
I saw the little manta ray. Yeah,
I saw that. I was like, so in the concept art that they showed, there was a scene where like you could barely kind of see what everything else that was going on, and it kind of looked like you were traveling over like a kind of like a seaport city type thing, and there was like a manta ray in the sky that kind of looked like the one in Moana that's in the water. And I saw that, I was like, there's no way that they're not trying to tie in some kind of IP, but not tell us that, because they know that that'll piss people off.
The weird thing to me too was that he specifically said that some of the existing scenes are going to be left in there. And as much as I love Spaceship Earth now, I don't know. I feel like if they're going to overhaul it, I would rather them just rip it all out and completely overhaul it instead of just trying to throw stuff in there. I would rather them, start to finish do an attraction rather than just kind of trying to piece by piece update it.
If they don't keep Renaissance Bob Carey, I'm going to revolt.
The thing is there's parts of this that they have to keep because of fan service. Like, I mean, obviously they don't. They've proven that to us before. But there's certain scenes that they know their audience likes, and I think that those are going to be the ones they're going to try to shoehorn in there. I can imagine them updating the narration on the attraction to kind of try to tie them in better, but I really don't know how that's going to work. The one thing I do want, though, is they better add some kind of show scene to the Descend, because if not, I'm going to be really upset about that.
Oh yeah,
really, I love the lights. That's like my favorite part.
I like the lights, but I feel like it goes on for a little too long, and it relies too much on the screen in the front of your car.
Way too much.
I mean, that's like
you guys don't like seeing your heads on like weird cartoon bodies?
There's about a 33% chance that thing takes my picture correctly, and it's actually my face put on that body.
I've gotten someone else's narration on there before, and I've gotten someone else's photo on there before, so I think it's due for an update.
I would agree, especially because there's only so many times that you can choose this certain answers and get different things,
Yeah. And it's not even that different. I mean, I guess it's good for the time that it was updated, but it's so cut and paste from what you picked that it's you can tell where the narration is I'm just going to fill in the blanks with what you selected.
Yeah.
But some other fun stuff that they're going to be doing. They're redesigning the exit and the area behind Spaceship Earth to what's going to be called Dreamer's Point, which will feature a statue of Walt looking over the park. And they made a big deal about that for some interesting reason.
I feel like because they want to act like he would have approved, and I think that this is not what Walt would have wanted at all, which I can't blame them because I don't think Walt's vision really would have been feasible had he lived, but I still don't think that he would, I don't know, whatever. None of us can actually say what he would want, so I shouldn't bother.
I get where you're going with that, though. Like, Walt's vision of the park was so different than the Epcot that we got, and I think they tried to do what they could with what they had for Epcot, but ultimately that ended up being the Imagineers park, and it's
now I feel like they've given up.
Well, now it's so far removed from even the slightest idea of what he wanted. At least you could kind of make the argument for it there. I hate to say that because I've all week been arguing with people about how Epcot hasn't really, I mean, it's changed, but change is natural. I just think that this is the statue of Walt is a little, I don't know the word for it, but it's pandering is the word. There it is. That's it. I don't know.
I'm gonna say I think a lot of people, look at it as Epcot the park is not Epcot the vision that Walt had, and that's absolutely true. But I also think that if the park wasn't called Epcot, that it's a lot of the vision that Walt wanted for parks and through the edutainment type stuff. And I think he'd be very approving of it. I just think that just the fact that it's called Epcot and it's not what Walt wanted Epcot to be doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't like the direction the park's taken.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I think that at this point, I don't know. I think it's weird to say that this park has any tie to his vision. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing by any means. I actually am really excited for the direction Epcot's headed in. It's just, I don't know. Them making as much of a big deal about the statue as they did was a little odd. But they did have some interesting stuff there, which I want to talk about some theories with you guys on this one too. There's going to be an interactive garden that they really didn't touch on much, but the concept art looked like there was going to be like almost Streetmosphere style performances in there. We'll see how long that lasts. And behind that, I don't know if you caught this, Brian, but there almost looked like an Alice in Wonderland style like restaurant or something back there. Like there was big tables with like lots of teacups stacked all over the place, and I don't know. There's something weird in that concept art.
I missed that.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But like directly behind that one that had the like garden in it, there was like a right in the back. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. There's also a wishing tree that guests can interact with in some kind of way that looks like it takes some strong bioluminescent notes from Pandora. A story fountain, which would replace the Fountain of Nations to a smaller degree, and then a 3-story event center.
Oh.
Which, yeah. The event center sounds interesting because it's going to have a plaza level, which is going to be like general, I guess, guest relation stuff. The mid-level is going to be like the festival center. And then the third level is going to have like roof access for like fireworks and shows and stuff. It's going to get real crowded in there real quick.
It does look really, really cool, though. Like,
I want to know more about this wishing tree. Like, what is this? Why am I putting my magic band up here? What am I doing?
I don't know. I really want answers about that one too, because it looks like it could be really cool. I just want to know what it is.
Right.
Yeah, so how do you guys feel about World Celebration?
I think the name is stupid, but yeah, other than that, I think it's exciting that they're finally doing something about Future World in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this so many times. It just annoys me because I just feel like the original attractions with no IP are so amazing, and it's really what differentiates them. And I feel like we're just never going to get any more of those. Like, I'm not saying I won't enjoy what it becomes, but I mean, clearly that's my only choice. If I had to choose, I would choose like original IP every time. I just feel like if they're trying to enter like a Magic Kingdom light, which is fine, like Magic Kingdom has value, but you know, some of their best attractions aren't attached to IP.
Yeah, I get that. And I don't know. I feel like I said this last week, but I feel like we're in an era of Disney leadership where that's not going to happen. And it's really sad to see that because, you know, the word imagine is in the name of the people that put these rides together, and it feels like they can't really use that. So the next thing that we got was the World Discovery section, which is going to be the section of the park that's got the Guardians of the Galaxy attractions in it, which was the first thing that they led with. Looks like we got a name for it. It's called Cosmic Rewind, and it's going to be the first Disney attraction roller coaster with a backwards launch. So that's interesting.
It's
Not much
nauseating.
else. Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. That I can live with.
I was going to say, you know, this should be pretty exciting for you as the thrill fan here.
Yeah, I will ride anything that they put out that's even slightly thrilling. Because they really don't have a ton.
I mean, I love a good thrill ride too. The idea of a backwards launch is
My favorite roller coaster ever, like the first roller coaster I ever went on, is completely backwards, or it actually doesn't exist anymore, but it was completely backwards. And it was like my favorite, and I've never ridden another ride like it. So
at my local theme park. They used to have one that one side went forward and one side went backward, and I would get nauseous like every single time I rode the backward one. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm done with that. But
that makes a lot of people sick.
hopefully, since it's just a backwards launch, I'll be okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's all it is, and that some of the ride will go forwards, because
Yeah, me too.
I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. We also got some information about the space restaurant that they announced last D23. I feel like this was like the cleanup D23, where like last D23 we got the announcements, and this year they were like, don't worry, they're still coming. But it looks like this is going to be called, hang on one second. Oh, okay. So it looks like this is going to be called Space 220. The space restaurant is going to be entered through an elevator that is going to carry guests up to space, where they will be able to eat with a view of Earth. Yeah, and it's going to be run by the people who run Via Napoli and Tutto Italia. So good food, definitely good food.
They said they'd have the same waiters too.
I keep forgetting about this. Honestly, like I need to plan on doing that when we're there, but I keep forgetting that it exists.
I'm actually pretty excited for. I keep forgetting about it too, but I think this is going to be one that when it opens, I'm going to definitely check it out. And then we got more info on the Play Pavilion. They only really talked about two things in there. One of them being that you're going to help Edna Mode bring style to the world.
Oh, heck yes.
It's interesting. And then there's a water balloon fight hosted by the DuckTales crew, which...
Really, really hoping they let adults do this.
That's just like a real bizarre idea.
It was, but as soon as I announced it, I was like, oh man, I would love to go have a water balloon fight with a bunch of people there.
That sounds awesome.
And then the last thing that they said about it was that there's going to be real and virtual spaces to play, and it'll definitely be open by the 50th. That was it.
Definitely be open by the 50th.
Yeah. I wonder if this is like the new Disney Quest.
Kind of seemed like that. It looked like they had a bunch of like smaller like VR type stuff, and yeah, it really does look like they're going to take some elements from Disney Quest in here.
I kind of hope they do. I like the idea of it. I want to see it executed in a way that they're not going to forget about it the way they forgot about Disney Quest.
I feel like they won't if it's in the middle of a park, you know?
That's true. Yeah, it's not a free space that anybody can just go into by paying like $10. So our next world on our tour of new Epcot is World Nature, which like I'm so happy that they decided to put this here. I'm going to start with the one that we knew about, which was the Moana walkthrough, the Journey of Water. They announced this one on Thursday, right? Or was that Friday that this got announced?
It was Friday. I think it was the first day of D23.
Yeah, it was definitely the first day. So I guess it was Friday. But they announced they were going to have this Moana walkthrough, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to go right in the middle of Epcot, but it makes sense to be right between the Land and the Sea Pavilion. And the cool thing is, apparently edutainment is not dead, because they said that guests can discover like information about natural water cycles, and that's how they're going to make it tie in with everything. So it's cool. It should have some like edutainment value to it. That would be exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
This is like one of those times, weirdly enough, that they announced something with an IP in a place I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't totally like put off by it at first glance.
Yeah, I think it looks cool.
Yeah, and it has the edutainment thing, which is like, I'm not against putting, you know, IPs in Epcot as long as it fits in with the theme of Epcot.
Right.
It seems to do that.
That's like, I don't know. That's the thing that I'm hoping is it does actually stay with that edutainment value. It does keep like some of the spirit of like going to this park and learning alive. And I think for this generation, tying it to characters they know is probably the best thing that they can do. Because, you know, we talk about obviously the original stories like Kirsten just said, but like there are families that come here because it's Disney and they want to be surrounded by Disney characters. I don't know. But they also announced in the very underwhelming fashion before this that the video in the Land Pavilion is going to get updated to the Awesome Planet Nat Geo video that they talked about. It should be here by 2020.
More being passive aggressively shamed into recycling.
I feel like they should update those videos in Living with the Land. Like, I love Living with the Land, but that could also use some updating.
They actually just did. Yeah, they didn't announce it or anything. It just happened like within the last couple of weeks. They redid all of the video, or they at least added new video. I'm sure they didn't redo the video in the last couple of weeks, but yeah. Yeah,
that's the like I was happy when they did that, and we went on it the last time, and it looked real good. I'm so excited about like this corner of the park is the part that I'm like the most excited about for some reason.
I'm really excited about this, being a big nature nerd that I am, obviously.
Yeah. And I think it's all going to tie in great. It's going to be like just before we go into World Showcase, which is not going to change too much. Like the fact that it's like everything is cohesive, and it's cohesive as it should have been. You know, like this is the way that the park was set up. It's always kind of been divided this way. It's nice that they're keeping it that way, but they're acknowledging that having Future World East and West is so confusing. But yeah, so let's move into World Showcase and talk about some stuff that we kind of already knew. But again, last D23 they said Circle Vision's getting an update, going to be more seamless. That was the word they used last time. But they're going to put new videos in the France and China Pavilion, January 2020 release date is what it's looking like for both of those. Kind of underwhelming because it's Circle Vision, but also pretty cool because it's Circle Vision.
I thought it was kind of weird that they're putting like that Beauty and the Beast sing along in the France Pavilion. But
yeah.
So wait, that there was a Circle Vision film in there, and they're removing it for that?
Oh, they're going to do both. So it's
Yeah.
going to like do Impressions de France, and then it's going to do a Beauty and the Beast sing along at different times during the day.
Doesn't sound forced at all.
Yeah. I mean, granted, at least, I mean, it's just a big theater. So, I mean, you can really do whatever you want there. And Impressions de France is like ridiculously boring, in my opinion. So, I'm okay with this. I just think it's weird.
Well, hopefully it'll be exactly like the Frozen sing-along, which is super entertaining and fun, and I've done it all of one time because I love it so much.
I detect sarcasm.
Just a little. I was very underwhelmed is the word of the night, I guess, because I literally did that right after it opened, and I was just like, wow, I cannot imagine wasting a fast pass on this, or even doing this again in the next 5 years. And that's kind of how I imagine this Beauty and the Beast thing to be. Hopefully it'll be better. I don't know. Have you guys done the Frozen sing-along? Maybe I'm alone here thinking that it's super boring.
I thought it was awful, but if I were a 6-year-old girl who liked Frozen, I would probably think it was the greatest day of my life. So
that's probably true. I just felt like that, like, it was literally like two people talking about it, and then the princesses came in like for like 3 minutes. I don't know. I would have been disappointed as a kid if I was expecting to sing along with Anna and Elsa, and I was actually seeing them for like 30 seconds at a time. That's how it felt to me anyway.
I've seen videos, and that's about all I'm ever going to actually do with it.
Yeah, if you don't have a kid, I don't think it's...
a better use of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I read this wrong, but we have like 3 different things in here. Apparently, Canada's also getting a new Circle Vision, or was it Canada and China are getting a Circle Vision thing, and France isn't?
Yeah, so Canada and China are both getting updates to their Circle Visions. And I know they said that China, I mean, they've announced a while ago that China was getting the like seamless one. I don't know if they said that they're doing that at Canada too, but they did say it would have a new video.
Okay, that makes sense. I was very confused when I looked at this. I was like, "What? Did we do this wrong?" But yeah, so we did Beauty and the Beast. Ratatouille ride is also coming to France still, which we've seen construction photos of that. I don't think we really need to touch on that too much. But they're looking for summer 2020. And they're also putting a creperie behind the Chefs de France. Oh, they're putting it near the attraction, but it's the team that did Chefs de France. That makes sense.
I wish that they would have done the restaurant instead. That like is like where you're like mouse sized or whatever. Because isn't that what they have in Paris? It's like there's the ride, and then there's also the restaurant, and you like are sitting on like a spool of thread and stuff. Because you're like supposed to be tiny. I don't know. I imagined it to be like the queue for Toy Story Mania, but like way cooler in a restaurant form.
I don't know. I
wish we were getting that.
I've like purposely avoided all of the actual like the stuff that they have out there just because I want to be pleasantly surprised when it opens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the ride will be cool. I just wish that instead of a creperie, they were like, I don't know. It's not like France needs any more sit-down restaurants anyway. Although they did say the creperie was going to be table service and quick service, so that's a thing.
I feel like they don't have as much room back there as they're developing.
I don't see why they need more food options.
Well, because it's the only part that's open before. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna like specifically said that what the Ratatouille is coming, like the ride is coming to a new part of the French pavilion, and it's like how much? What new? What do you mean a new part of it? It's like there's like X amount of space to work with. The pavilion's already there, so I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the other thing too, I guess, because that's the part of Epcot that's open before World Showcase. I guess they're trying to cram as much stuff in there as they can. But then, like, why don't you just open World Showcase with Epcot?
Still don't understand why they haven't started doing that.
They have to soon. I would imagine that, especially since it's being considered its own land and it's not like split between Future World and World Showcase anymore. Like that, it's got to be coming.
Especially, I feel like it's been a long time coming of people seeing, oh, Epcot opens at 9, so I'm gonna get there at 9, and then they're like, oh, so I can't do anything until 11. Like, I can't imagine how many cast members have had to have that awful conversation.
So other stuff too in World Showcase. It looks like we're getting something that's been rumored for a while, but this announcement was really cool. Cherry Tree Lane will be opening as a new section of the UK Pavilion and will include a Mary Poppins attraction, to which Dick Van Dyke was brought out to introduce this whole thing, and that was really exciting.
Yeah,
I very much enjoyed them.
Old.
I loved the way they did this announcement too. Like, that was the coolest thing that they could have done.
The chimney sweeps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty
cool. That's the kind of...
Isn't Cherry Tree Lane like a store? Because I definitely read that and I was like, they're getting a store there? Wow. Okay.
It is. It's in the co-op at Disney Springs.
Okay. But this is a different Cherry Tree Lane.
Well, I think it was called Cherry Tree Lane because that's the street that the Bankses lived on.
Yeah. But reading the announcement, I totally didn't connect that at all.
Oh, gotcha. You thought like that store was opening?
Yes, I thought that they were getting a store in the UK and like, woohoo. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure what to make of the like announcement because they didn't specifically say what it's going to be, whether it's going to be a ride or a walkthrough attraction or what. But the idea of you start going into the Banks house and that's where your adventure begins. It's like, that sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to see what they make of it.
The original rumor was it was going to be a flat spinner ride. But yeah, I don't know if that's
teacups.
It was supposed to be a carousel or like just a flat spinner, like teacup kind of thing.
Yeah, but the fact that you're going inside the house, I feel like debunks that rumor for the most part. At least,
like it doesn't seem like they have much space to add anything like huge. So I mean, that would be something that has a pretty small footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they will be doing, but I mean, it says that it's going to be Cherry Tree Lane, like the whole like little section of it. So maybe they're, I don't know, taking over part. Maybe they're gonna like, I don't know, go behind the tea garden or like take over the tea garden. Don't they have some little space? Yeah, that like event space thing.
Well, I was also thinking the space where Christopher Robin's room was, like back in that little corner area. There's not a lot of room back there, but they could turn like those shops into. I don't know.
Why don't they do like a hang glider ride and make it kites? I mean,
ooh.
Why am I not an imaginary best ideas? Remember, whenever they turn Rock and Roller Coaster into Powerline, that's because of me.
I wish they would
be down for that.
That's like all right, I want to save these for the end because I want to ask you guys, and I guess we could start to think about it now, but think about what you're disappointed that they didn't announce in here or surprised. So next little bit of Epcot news, and I think this is probably like some of the most exciting part of it. Epcot Forever's limited run is going to happen still. and then a new show called Harmonious, which will be the biggest nighttime. Harmonious, emphasis on the us.
Which all mostly us.
But that's going to be the biggest nighttime spectacular ever at Walt Disney World. And they did play the original score on stage, which was okay.
I liked it. I give them gold stars for an original score.
That's the thing that
is a thing that they don't do as much as they should anymore.
Exactly. There's they definitely doing an original score for this was probably by far my favorite part, and I'm really excited for a new nighttime show in Epcot. I think Epcot absolutely needs it.
I'm excited to see Epcot Forever because I feel like it's going to be a limited run train wreck, and I never get to see those things.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited.
Jungle Book Alive with Magic.
Yeah,
I hope it's not that bad.
Yeah. The funny thing about this is I know we were talking about the pandering for the Walt statue, but this is totally Epcot fan service pandering. Please don't leave our park just yet. Because they were talking about how it's going to be glimpses of Epcot past and all the attraction songs from before are going to come back. And I was all right, I see what you're doing, but I don't like it. I still see it, but I don't like it.
I mean, I feel like when they stopped writing Siemens across the giant ball, they kind of lost a lot of their audience. Who wants to stay there when that part's gone?
Oh,
You can cut that if that's inappropriate. But
no, that was good. I'll leave that
I
in
think
there.
it's funny because, did y'all not focus on that constantly after Epcot was over or after
it was over? So weird? Yeah.
Good advertisement.
Interesting method.
Very.
Yeah, but that sponsorship's done now, so maybe we'll get some other company's name across Spaceship Earth at the end.
Do we want to jump ahead a little bit and talk about who I think is going to be the sponsor for everything in Walt Disney World?
Oh my gosh, they took so much time.
All right, hold on. Before we dive into this, apparently they're building a Target near Walt Disney World, and Target is also going to be basically the new Disney store because a select 25 Targets in this October will have a miniature Disney store built inside of them, and then an additional 40 stores will also have one built inside of them in 2020. To me, this is Disney's way of phasing out the Disney store. Just throwing that out there right now.
I mean, honestly, I don't think the Disney store is that great. Maybe it's just me, but there's not anything for adults. There's really nothing for really young kids like Eli's age. It's a very small audience group of 4 to 12, and that's it. And there's nothing from the parks. I don't want to go if they and they don't even during Halloween, they don't have a ton, in my opinion, a ton of stuff. Because there's one in North Park, the mall I go to all the time, and I literally have been in there maybe twice, and I stay there for 30 seconds, and I'm why did I even come in here? To me, the Disney store is kind of lame.
I remember back in the day, the Disney store, though, when they would have the little spinning statues and animatronics and stuff. And it was actually pretty cool.
The Disney store near us had, for the longest time, they closed down, and then a sports memorabilia store moved in there, and instead of gutting the building, they just painted over everything with black spray paint. So it still had the Mickey film reels all over the place, and some of the things still spun, but they had sports memorabilia on them.
Same. Ours is a man cave store now or something.
I lived in the boonies, and I never got to go to a Disney store. We had to drive an hour to get to a Target or anything. We didn't even have a copy in my town.
The one thing that I hope that they keep, if they keep the Disney store around, is the Disney outlets, because even the ones that aren't near the parks sometimes get parks merchandise, and even if they don't, they at least get adult stuff, and that's exciting.
I've gone to the outlet stores a couple of times recently, and I went to the one near the parks on my last trip, and I was very disappointed at the slim pickings. I think
that's it,
it's a very hit or miss. I think it's like you get there on a day where they just got a bunch of stuff.
Absolutely, but
I
still
do agree
a cool
that
concept.
it's a cool thing to keep around for getting rid of merchandise that isn't selling well or whatever.
They ship some of the park stuff around too, because there's one up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is like a 3-hour drive from me. But we were up there fairly recently, and we stopped in to the outlet store that was there, and they had a whole bunch of Disneyland merchandise. Like they had Spirit jerseys in there from Disneyland.
Pro tip:
cool.
Make friends with a cast member and get them to take you to Cast Connection, because that's like the Disney outlet store times a million. It's like super duper cheap, like stuff that they're still selling in the parks a lot of times. It's the best.
There's also stores. They have a store back there that sells like old, like Disney stuff from like the hotels and whatever. Like you can buy dishes back there. Me and one of my friends, we have signs from the Boardwalk Club level that say like, please use your room key after 8 p.m. And like, I remember whenever I worked there, they were selling like the big banners from Year of a Million Dreams and that sort of thing. That was pretty
That's
fun.
really cool.
When I was there, I think there's one room that only cast members can go into that's like the damaged stuff. But then there's another room that sells stuff that anybody, like as long as you're there with a cast member, you can go and buy. That's like you were saying, Kirsten, stuff from the resorts. And when I was there last week, they had these huge mirrors that were obviously from like Wilderness Lodge or Animal Kingdom Lodge or something. There was really huge, nice mirrors. And I was so tempted to get one because it was like $50 or something. But I did not have anywhere to put it in my car. So I had to pass, unfortunately. But yeah. That's a good reason. Don't just use a cast member, but make friends with a cast member and then get them to take you there.
Cast members are good people. Be friends with them.
Yeah, I mean,
and
they
then
are.
hope that they get you in.
Exactly.
So let's pick apart the rest of this for some Walt Disney World news. One thing they announced pretty early on in the panel is that a new Cirque du Soleil show is set to open April 17th, 2020.
Oh, that's a long.
Be allowed to see that.
Let's try that one again. New Cirque du Soleil show is set to open April 17th, 2020. And it's going to combine Cirque du Soleil's artistry with the storytelling of Disney animation and Disney parks. And all three of them are going to like collaborate on this. So that's really exciting. The show is going to feature animated characters that are going to interact with the live performers as well, and will feature music from Disney movies. I think this is pretty cool. Even as someone that really likes Cirque du Soleil, I think this is a welcome addition.
Yeah, I've never seen Cirque du Soleil before. I always wanted to while I was at Disney Springs, and I think I'm gonna have to check this one out. It sounded really cool.
Yeah, it does. I've seen a few Cirque du Soleil shows. I never got to see the one at Disney Springs, unfortunately, but if it's anything like the ones I've seen, it's going to be incredible. I'm super excited about it.
It was cool. I mean, I liked the one that was there, and we saw that like way back when, and I really enjoyed it. I think that this is going to be cool because it's got a lot of creative force behind it. I think with Disney collaborating with Cirque du Soleil, it's going to take the things that work for all three of them, hopefully, and put them all in one place, and that'll be really cool.
They're definitely going to get an audience that they weren't getting before by incorporating Disney into the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was excited that they were saying that Imagineering is going to have a hand in it too. So kind of wondering what that's going to entail.
I'm interested to see how they make the characters interact with the performers, because like from the concept art that they showed, it looked like there was going to be some projection mapping involved. That's kind of the direction I hope they go with it. I hope they also maybe can find a way to make it not like cheap characters in Cirque du Soleil, because then it would just be, the Lion King, and we already have that. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope that this goes off really well. Next thing on here that we've got we're getting a new DVC resort, Reflections, which I think we already knew about that, right?
Yeah, but I don't. Had they announced the theming behind it yet until then?
I don't think so. I think this was the first time we've actually seen more concept art for it. I know we saw some photos, but not a lot. I know they talked about like the actual, like the way that they're set up. They have like the lakeside cabins, the treehouse forts, and all that stuff. And I don't think they really even talked about where it's going to be set, which that ties into the next big announcement on here. The Princess and the Frog table service restaurant that's also going to be included in Reflections.
I was so excited to hear this.
Yeah. This
good
whole
Cajun
resort looks really
cooking.
cool.
Yeah.
Where exactly is it going to be, though? Like, in what position?
Near where River Country was?
It is on top of where River Country was.
And the thing about this too, this is going to be a big point for DVC, because when we did our DVC tour on this last trip, our tour guide was telling us that this is actually the last spot that they have space for on the lake. So this is going to be the last resort that they build here unless they tear something down.
I'm very curious to see what kind of prices this place is going to have. I mean, obviously it's DVC, but I feel like it's, I don't know. This looks expensive.
Yep. But
definitely go to the restaurant, though.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This restaurant looks so exciting, and I know Beth's going to agree with me on this. It's so long overdue, because it was the easiest tie-in for Disney to do with any IP at a restaurant.
Literally, the princess
Tiana literally
that
owns
has
her
a
own restaurant
passion for cooking.
Like they could have just dropped the restaurant from the movie in, and you could have had Tiana's place, and it would have been perfect. But Disney said no.
So much better. Oh well. I'll take what I can get. Any Princess and the Frog tie-in, I am super excited about it. It's definitely one of the more underrated films, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am very excited, and I will definitely visit this restaurant.
Though I gotta say, it would have, I feel like, made even more sense to give her a restaurant at Port Orleans. But you know, what do I know? Just
Definitely
the biggest
made
Princess and the Frog fan ever. Disney, what are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that the whole reason that they're trying to like say that the restaurants here are tied in here, especially because the fact that it's going to be a deluxe resort, is because it's got that like bayou look outside of it. Like in the concept art at the bottom of this article, it definitely looks like it would fit the part.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, that's a good stance. So they also announced that the 50th anniversary celebrations are going to be everywhere, not just Magic Kingdom.
I mean, I was
We
kind
take
of
a little bit of the pressure off. Like everyone being at one park, but I mean, Magic Kingdom is like the park that we're really celebrating the 50th for.
And that's true, but it's like, I feel like this is mainly because Epcot is going to have all this new stuff at the time. So I think they're wanting to be like, oh, but look, like, you know.
I also feel like a lot of like the common folk just consider Magic Kingdom to be like Disney World. Like they come in and they're like, I just need a ticket to Disney World. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I guess obviously Magic Kingdom is the first park in Disney World, but like it is technically the 50th anniversary of Disney World too, as cheap as that sounds to say. I don't know. I think that it probably should have been contained to Magic Kingdom, but we're not going to get that.
Well, I was just kind of expecting that it would be everywhere.
Really? I was kind of hoping it wouldn't be, but This is
Still
fine,
the
I guess.
45th. I was expecting it to be confined to Magic Kingdom, but then again, 45 is not as a monumental anniversary like 50.
Yeah.
Actually, on my 40th shirt right now.
And then the last piece of Walt Disney World news is that Disney's developing yet another app, Disney Genie, which is supposed to be able to customize itinerary and evaluate plans. Basically,
touring plans.
Yeah, Disney said touring plans makes money, and we want that money.
Yep, that's exactly what they said at that boardroom table.
When I saw this, though, the first thing when they were like, oh yeah, it'll like cater experiences to what it like makes pre-selected fast passes and all that kind of stuff. It's like, this is going to get you on one e-ticket attraction and 2 scrub rides so that it helps thin out the guest attendance of the e-tickets that are getting too long wait times. I feel like
definitely.
Like I don't feel like you're going to use this app and it's going to help you if you are a big Disney fan and know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think for people like us, it's not that big of a deal, but I do think it's good for, once again, those common folk who really just, like, I believe with the internet, everybody should at least do like a tiny, minuscule amount of research, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people don't like to go on vacations where they have to plan things. So I feel like this is a good way for, I don't know, your kid who watches Disney Channel and saw some ad for like a ride at Disney World. And that's really all you know going in. And so you get to do that. And then if your other kid likes, animals or whatever, it tells you what to do at Animal Kingdom. Like, I think for those kind of people, and it's like a huge amount of their guests. I mean, just think about the Google reviews we read where it's like, I had to wait in line, blah, blah, blah. I'm not paying for fast passes. Like, people just have no clue. And I think it's good for them, hopefully.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, people want to be told what to do, and they don't want to have to do the work themselves. I mean, like, I'm sure all of us have been to the park at one point or another with somebody and them say something along the lines of, oh my God, I'm so glad you know what you're doing, so I didn't have to. And I think that will be beneficial for those types of people who don't want to put in the legwork to, customize their trip the way that people like us would. But my main hope for this is that it'll kind of make touring plans, like, look at it and be like, all right, so what can we add? Like, what other tools can we add to compete with this? Because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still going to use touring plans, not only because I feel like it's probably going to be a better service, but it's also not going to be biased like the Disney one will be.
That's the biggest thing, is it's a third party.
Right, exactly. So they're not going to try and tell you, oh, the wait on this ride's really not that long, when it actually is, so that they'll get you to go stand in that line anyway. Whereas touring plans is like, hey, we're using like actual algorithms and like scientific research and like historical data.
You know what I really would be interested in for science, I guess? Taking a Disney trip and like pitting Disney Genie against touring plans. Like, to see what ends up.
Experiment.
Yeah. See which one stacks up to put out like the most effective use of your time, because like you guys said, Disney Genie's probably going to be biased. It's probably going to be like, oh, we saw your profile and realized you're a family of 4 that's going to Walt Disney World, and you're going to want to do a fast pass for Disney Junior Live on Stage. And touring plans is going to be like, no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know. It also, the thing to me that we've said a couple times on here, we've talked about the likelihood of a 5th gate and how Disney has to improve the parks that they have. But Disney now has 2 apps that don't work the way that they want to do, and they're rolling out a 3rd. So I don't think Disney cares about completing things. I think this is the perfect time to say, screw it, and let's just build something new.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that I hope that Disney Genie will incorporate that the My Disney Experience app does not, and I mean, this is like a park-wide thing that they could be doing, is putting the wait times at the parks of the buses, like from place to place, like they do it at the resorts, so why can't they do it at the parks? I feel like that would be
the
a really
ones at the resorts aren't right anyway, so I don't know why it matters.
The ones at the
That's
resort
true.
are so far off. We, on our last trip, were waiting at the bus stop for, I think it was Magic Kingdom, and the timer kept going up until the bus arrived. And when it got there, it said the next bus wouldn't come for another hour.
Maybe that bus hit another bus like mine did that one time, and it was just happenstance.
They didn't offer to take me to Hollywood Studios as it was closing, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've used the wait times at the resorts, it's been relatively accurate. I don't know, that obviously is a very hit or miss type of thing, but I mean, still, I feel like if they could just give any sort of indication of hey, am I going to stand in this line for did I literally just miss the bus? Am I wasting my time, or should I just go back to my resort and relax? Kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that's the only thing that they could have on touring plans that touring plans wouldn't be able to access. Is their bus system.
I think Touring Plans has actually done the math for their bus system too, so I don't know. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how this Disney Genie thing works out. I'm interested to see what happens with it and if they continue to keep building apps that don't work.
I will say that after doing the pass holder preview for Galaxy's Edge, that I am much more hopeful for the Play app. So,
did that restore any of your faith in the Play app, Brian?
Okay, I didn't get it working, but I did.
You deleted it and you didn't download it back, right?
Well, yeah, I deleted it a year ago, probably when it was still terrible, and then I tried to do it in the park, but I couldn't really get service. I was paying attention though, Beth was showing me what she was doing on it though, and it definitely looked better than what it was. It's not saying a lot, but
it was a big improvement for sure.
Yeah.
There's lots of interactive stuff that you could do, and I thought that was kind of cool. There's little missions that you can do. When you complete a mission, you get a prize that's I don't know, a piece of a ship or something, and then eventually you can trade those in for credits. I still I didn't get to play with it a whole lot because I was trying to experience the land itself, but from what I saw, it definitely gave me a small glimmer of hope for Disney's app future.
The one thing, the caveat that I have is that I know you said earlier that when we were in line for Smuggler's Run that there was an interactive thing to do on the app, and that's cool and I like that. I don't want that to be what an interactive queue is now though, and I'm worried that they might start doing that more.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I have heard, I didn't experience this personally, but I've read other people that have done it, and I don't think this is necessarily in the queue, but there was some area where you get on the app. It's called your data pad, and you hack other, I don't know, little things, and that they do make certain effects happen when you actually hack.
I think that's mostly throughout the land because I've heard of that. Yeah,
I feel I agree with you, Brian, that I don't want that to be all that an interactive queue becomes, but I feel if they incorporated it in a way that made stuff happen in the real world through the app, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
An interactive queue setting anyway. But I guess we'll see with the Disney Genie.
Yeah. And then the last thing that they talked about, which is not Disney World related, but still exciting. Disney Cruise Line is adding 3 new ships. New Disney-owned port of call, Lighthouse Point, which is going to focus on Bahamian culture and festivities. And Joe Rohde has a hand in this port.
This makes me super excited. Anybody that's been on a Disney cruise line that's been to Castaway Cay will know how awesome that island is. It's very cool, and the fact that they're doing something like it sounds like they're going to take this even further than that, and that Joe Rohde's leading it is just got me super hyped.
I'm also super excited. I've never been on a cruise. It still kind of freaks me out, but I want to go on one eventually. And the fact that Joe Rohde's involved. Have I told the story about Joe Rohde's house?
No.
I'm not 100% sure. From my information, I'm like 90% sure. So my parents had a house in the Bahamas and we just sold it, but it's this tiny island that's not very well known. It's not like Nassau or whatever. It's very small. We ride golf carts everywhere. And so when they were buying it, a realtor told them like there was a big Disney Imagineer who had a house there. And I'm almost positive that it was Joe Rohde's, like from what they gathered. And like I've driven by to look at it a ton, and it looks like this amazing like tree house. I mean, it looks like Swiss Family tree house. Like the roof is thatched and whatever. And the gate is like all of these branches. It's so cool. But I think it was his house. And, you know, so if that was him and he really appreciates Bahamian culture, you know, because it is pretty cool. And like just seeing what he did with Expedition Everest and Asia and all that stuff, I think that hopefully it'll be really good.
Yeah, I think if anybody's like on the team to design something that's going to be themed after a specific culture and they're going to like have them appreciate the culture, Joe Rohde is definitely the person for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like honestly, like it was really smart of them to get him involved and especially to bring him on for this panel, because I feel like people would have just stopped watching. Like at that point, like, oh, okay, cruise line, I don't really care. But then like Joe Rohde and everybody's like, okay, I'm interested.
All right, and my attention is back now.
Mm-hmm.
So that wraps about everything up that they talked about that's somewhat related to anything on this show. Thoughts? Anything you guys are disappointed that you didn't hear about?
50th. I mean, I feel like we were waiting for something like that kid in The Incredibles. You know, what are you waiting for? Something amazing. Like, I don't know. I did not have my "that was totally wicked" moment. I just love that movie.
I also feel like they also kind of dragged us along. Like, hey, we're gonna announce a new pavilion at World Showcase, and like, okay, you didn't do that, but you really made it seem like you were going to.
I think with everything going on in Brazil right now, it was probably a PR move for them to not announce something.
It's actually a really solid point.
Yeah.
Assuming that the new pavilion is Brazil, you mean?
That was what it was heavily rumored. And I don't know if you guys saw the tweet that went out. I forget what college it was, but they tweeted that one of their people works, or one of the people that graduated there, one of their alumni works for Disney, and his next big thing is that he's going to Brazil to recruit cast members.
Oh, I did see that. I also saw that somebody responded saying that they do some recruitment there on a regular basis anyway. I don't know if that was their way of spinning it to like, hey, no, that's not weird that they're going to recruit in Brazil. No. Or if that's actually true. But yeah, I thought that was funny. They like had to take it down. Like, oops, we weren't supposed to say that.
Can we also just talk about the lame, like, after Universal announced the park and Disney added this secret announcement to the schedule, and it was the cast member documentary? Like, wow. I think I'm more disappointed by what they didn't say, because that, I don't know, I feel like that got some hype and it was just totally undeserved.
That wasn't even like the most exciting Disney Plus thing that they had to announce. So I don't.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I guess they forgot that the internet has a way of overhyping everything. But I don't know. Labeling it as secret announcement is like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
Right. If you're gonna label it as secret announcement, it needs to be something crazy, and that was not.
Yeah. You all are gonna laugh at me, but I am very upset that we didn't hear anything about the Imagination Pavilion. mostly because of the placement that it's in. It's split in a really bad spot for these divides.
Well, I thought they were definitely going to announce something about it because the Imagineer that they brought in to open up the whole Epcot thing, like ended his little thing with, I remember Epcot as a kid, and he like specifically mentioned like Figment during it, and everybody went kind of ooh, like what's going on, and then nothing came of that.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Like, it was just there were so many weird things that they did that like almost made you think, oh, they're going to do something, and then they didn't, and it was such a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, really, the biggest takeaway that I had from this was, I mean, there were maybe 3 or 4 things that were actual announcements that we didn't already know about. Like,
yeah,
I remember in 2017, it was just like, whoa, like one thing after another that like was just new actual announcements. And this is just kind of follow up more details on stuff they've already announced.
It was the update year.
It really was. And I mean, it's kind of disappointing. Especially after Universal announced all this stuff, I would have thought if anything, they would have gone the opposite direction and announced some things that maybe they were still in development for and weren't quite ready to announce yet, but would go ahead and put it out there because of that. But it looks like either not much is coming or they're just keeping the cards close to the vest.
I think Universal won D23.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
My completely unfounded hot take going into this was that Disney was going to announce some updates to Pandora. I thought that would have been a good counter to a lot of the stuff that Universal was coming out with, they just added the new Harry Potter attraction and everything. And I thought that, I was kind of hoping to see some continuation there with Pandora. And I don't know why I was kind of expecting something there.
Would have been nice.
I don't know. So, any takeaways that we have after D23? Anything that you guys feel like we need to talk about, even if it's your disappointment?
Give me death.
What was that?
I said, give me a 5th gate or give me death. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think so.
Ever.
Here's a big question. Do we think next year or the next D23 is going to be like miles better than this one? No, really?
Because I feel like this was their year. Like, this is leading up to this huge, like the 50th. I feel like it should have been, or it should be like a huge deal. And they like Avatar was huge, Star Wars was huge, and like this was the time to kind of continue with the momentum that they've gained and like remind Universal like, hey, we're number one for a reason, and they just didn't deliver. And probably the biggest announcement next time will be like Bob Iger, like, I'm sorry, I love me so much, I just can't go.
I mean, I'm not expecting this. I'm not expecting to see much because like they're going to be in a transition with Iger stepping down and everything. At the same time, though, I feel like last D23 it was a ton of park stuff, and this year it was most definitely about Disney Plus. Like that was their big thing, and that's understandable. That that's obviously going to be probably the biggest new money making thing that the Disney Corporation is going to have coming out. So I understand why they wanted to focus on that. I do think that it's not going to be like it was in 2017, but I think it will be a little bit better than this year next time.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing to think about too. Like Disney's kind of grown so much that it's hard to say like, I mean, the Parks panel was disappointing, but the Disney Plus panel was really good. And I mean, I guess as a whole, like they're this big media conglomerate now, but we have to remember they do have other entities besides parks that they have to worry about,
which are a lot bigger money makers too, which is, as the corporation, I understand their desire to focus on that. So
All makes sense. Well, is there anything you guys want to talk about before we wrap up this week's D23 stuff? Nope. Then that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you want to be a part of the show, reach out to us on our website at www.station71podcast.com, where you can find links to all of our social media, our email address, and our brand new Google Voice line where you can leave us a voice message. Have anything you want to hear us talk about, we'd be happy to discuss that on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.